super. Hi, everyone. This is Tyson and Dina coming at you to share some training that Dina just went to. Dina, do you want to tell us what you were attending?
Sure. What was the Trauma Informed Care for Volunteers? It was actually through the Learning Exchange, which is available to all volunteers, staff, and even parents and guardians, I think, through the Big Brothers Big Sisters platform. And I would highly recommend it for anyone who works with youth of any age.
And we know that some of you may not necessarily have the time right now to attend the full training, so Dina's kindly agreed to give you some highlights in case that is the case. So we thought it'd be smart to maybe just get on the same page and start with some basic definitions. For example, trauma. What is trauma, Dina?
So trauma are experiences that cause intense physical and psychological stress reactions that typically have long-lasting effects. And what those are, can vary obviously from individual to individual.
And what that's tied closely to the idea of ACEs, right? Which a lot of people maybe have heard of, but kind of forget, or maybe some people haven't heard of. So can you give us a quick explanation of ACEs?
Yeah, ACEs is like a short tool that's used to assess how many traumatic events a child or an individual has had in their lifetime. It certainly doesn't cover all possible traumas, but many of the major ones. And what they found is that almost 70% of the population has had at least one adverse childhood experience, which is what ACEs stands for. And 12% has had 4 or more adverse childhood experiences. And the reason that's important is because the higher the ACEs score, the poorer people's health outcomes tend to be on a variety of measures.
And the adverse childhood experiences, not just, broken ankle or something like that, but long lasting, impactful kinds of
Yeah.
relational dynamics, maybe been witness to abuse in the family, or maybe there's been a death in the family, or
Mhm.
maybe there's been divorce in the family, or any number of,
An incarcerated parent. Yeah, those are the kinds of things. Exactly.
and so why do you think it's important for people to, you mentioned, like almost 70% of the population has at least one, right? And that the higher the score is, the poorer the long-term health outcomes. So what do you think, why do we care that people know that?
Mhm. Well, not only are there poor health outcomes, but having a lot of traumatic experiences can also contribute to what they call toxic stress, which means that the brain is actually being changed as a result of prolonged activation of stress hormones. Um, and that can affect the way children, since we're working with children, present to us in relationships, in schools, and places where we might be trying to help them when a child is experiencing all this. So understanding the role that trauma and toxic stress plays can help us really understand the child we are supporting much better. It can help us be much more compassionate, and it also can help us be more strategic and effective in the way we choose to interact with them and help support them.
So let me go back to the first part of what you said about helping us understand a little better. You know, you can tell me if you're thinking of something different, but what that makes me think of is when I see or hear about a person, especially a young person, behaving in ways that I don't understand, maybe hiding under a table, for example, if it's an after school club that we're doing, or not looking me in the eye, and I'm not aware that they're from a culture where that's something that people wouldn't be comfortable with, or maybe just not answering back, if asked a question directly or something like that. Perhaps everybody's different, obviously, but those could be some examples of how behavior could be changed kind of post trauma. Is that kind of what you're thinking of? Or
Yeah, exactly. We might see challenging behavior that's hard for us to deal with. We might see extremely introverted behavior where a child is shutting down. We might misinterpret being very tired and, forgetting our homework, as being purposefully obstinate or disrespectful. So it's just always good to keep, in the back of your head that there's probably more than meets the eye with many of the children that we are supporting.
Yeah, that's a great point. And a lot of times, even though Big Brothers Big Sisters, we do in-depth interviews with the family, with the young person, with volunteer. We know what people want to share with us, right? So there's certainly with everybody going to be a whole layer of history that we will never get to in our interviews. That's going to inform them. So a good thing to remember: we don't know it all, even if we think we know a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And then, as far as the second part of what you were talking about, kind of helping kids navigate through life if they have been through trauma, how can we help them build resiliency, do you think?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So one of the biggest predictors of a child's ability to overcome trauma, and what we call a protective factor for a child, is the support of a caring, consistent adult in the child's life. So obviously that's something at Big Brothers Big Sisters that we're very good at providing, and then equipping those adults even more specifically with tools that they can use with the children that they are mentoring in our context. Something they pointed out in the training is that it's too much to expect the children to overcome all these barriers and challenges on their own and obstacles on their own. So many kids have multiple things piling up, and it's not fair to expect the children to be able to climb over those obstacles on their own. So it's really up to us adults to educate ourselves, to arm ourselves with the best tools to help them do that. So besides just being a supportive, caring, and consistent, really neat way to think about it was they talked about 5 healing gestures that adults can use. And it's just a very simple way for adults to think about their interactions with kiddos.
Yeah, and these were really cool things that you shared. So the first one is, of the 5 healing gestures: celebrate children with compliments.
Mm-hmm.
Could you give us an example of that, maybe, or what that might look like or sound like?
Well, I think it's mostly just finding any example you can to build kids up. There's a popular children's book that a lot of people have seen. There's actually a couple of them about filling buckets. And so I think that's a handy way to think about it. The more positive input you have coming out or coming towards you from other people, just the happier you're going to be. So just thinking about filling up the buckets of the children and adults around us with compliments whenever we see an opportunity to give one.
Yeah, and some people are really comfortable doing that verbally, and others, maybe it would be easier to send a text message or a note in the mail, or there's multiple ways to do that. So I think that's a great one. What was the next one in your 5 healing gestures?
The next one was to just comfort them with calm and patience. I think the calm and patience are an important part of this, because sometimes when we're with a child who is very upset or who is distraught, our own emotions tend to start to get involved, but being a steady, calm presence and just offering, the support at the time that a child is in distress, or letting them know that you're available at another time, is very important.
Mm-hmm. And it looks like another one: listen to them and show interest.
Mm-hmm.
Which might sound obvious, but I was listening to Oprah, of all people, share a mindset on this, that it's the difference between when your child walks in the room, or a child walks in the room, looking up, maybe smiling at them, going back to what you're doing, or to really, with your body language and your facial expression and everything, to let them know that they are fully seen, that they are appreciated, that you are present there in the moment, and I'm not, texting on my phone while I'm saying, hey, whoever, whatever.
Yeah.
Is there anything besides that comes to mind for you in terms of listening well and showing interest in a young person?
Well, I think that's huge how you summed it up. I think especially parents these days, when so many of us are home, we're working, we have our kids home, they want our attention. It's extremely challenging to actually be present, I guess, is another way I would put it, to actually allow yourself to be present with a child, whether you're a parent or a big brother or sister. And like you said, too, just really intentionally, say, I'm going to set these things aside for now, so that you're sending the message that the child is actually more important than those things. Not that the other things aren't also important, but we can make the time to communicate that.
Right.
Yeah.
A conscious decision in that moment. I like that present word. All right. So we've got celebrate children with compliments. These are our 5 healing gestures. Comfort them with calm and patience. Listen to them and show interest. What else do we got in that 5?
And then collaborate with them, which I think is an important one to consider. And I think there's a lot of opportunity for our big brothers and sisters to do this with their littles. We often talk about, we don't necessarily need a top-down relationship. Well, obviously there's an adult and there's a child, that problem solving together, coming up with ideas together, soliciting opinions, making plans together, that makes the child or the little feel like what they think is important, that they have something to contribute to a discussion, or to figuring something out, or to planning. And because our kids do have things to offer, so it's not just acting like they have something to offer. It's based on the realization that they really do have a valuable perspective that should be taken into account. And I think that's empowering for a child, and also helps them build confidence when people are taking them seriously and really interested in what they have to say and what their ideas are.
Yeah, that's a great point. It makes me think of the tendency that I know I'm guilty of at times. I think a lot of us are, when you hear someone share a challenge, the temptation to try to fix it, right? To offer them a solution, right? And I think what you're talking about is not that. It's instead of like giving them the solution, trying to hear from them, or elicit or empower them to kind of get there with guidance. Is that fair?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a big part of it. And then just, in a lighter, more, easy breezy note, just like, what are we going to do today? What's our plan, or what's our plan for the month? Let's plan out our month. What are your ideas? Like, what would you like to experience?
Mm-hmm.
So,
And
yeah.
what's the 5th one then, if we got of our 5 healing gestures, powerful healing gestures?
The 5th one is to inspire them with new ideas. And again, I think that's an area where our bigs, there's a lot of room to do this by taking them to new places, which is easier when we're not in a pandemic. But, we've had bigs who are able to take their littles to Orchestra Iowa events, or to the ballet, or to an airport, or to the public access TV channel, or fishing, or to the museum. Outdoor music. There's so many experiences that we can share with kids that they may not have access to otherwise. I think we don't want to underestimate the value of how those new experiences could inspire kids to think about their futures in different ways.
Inspire kids to think about their futures in different ways. I love that. And it also makes, you're talking about, easier non-pandemic times, obviously. For people who aren't aware, we have linked some virtual resources to our webpage, our resources section. So for example, some virtual field trips that a parent or a big could explore with their youth virtually, or some other things that way that aren't necessarily things you think of in normal times, but options now. So
Sure.
Dina, you're the one who actually did the work of going through the training. I'm going to give you the last word if you'd like it. What do you want to leave folks with?
Well, I just want to just underline for people, for adults, that what you do matters, that your work mentoring children matters, and that you truly can have a meaningful impact on children's life without, you don't have to be a psychologist, you don't have to be a therapist, but just to be that caring, consistent adult who has some of these tools in their belt, you can really make a really significant impact in a child's life, even if they have been experiencing all sorts of difficulties and traumas in their life. So, yeah.
Awesome. And if folks are interested in taking the full training, was it like an hour or something?
Yeah, and it probably took me a little more than an hour because there were a lot of resources that you could link to take you out. And so you could spend a good amount of time. But the nice thing is you don't have to do it all at once. I certainly didn't. So you can start and then go back. There's no hurry when you're taking it. You won't time out. So you can really take your time with it and spread it out over a few days if you need to.
Awesome. So let your mentoring specialist know if you are interested and they can help you get connected. Thank you so much, Dina, for sharing those insights. We really appreciate it.
You are welcome. Thanks, Tyson.
Yep. Okay, now I got to figure out how to stop record.